What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG TCG video. Today, guys, we are going to be going over the new Dino support. Not really Dino support. I'll explain it as we get into the actual discussion. That is set to release in Animation Chronicles 2022. This new support was part of the first big batch of cards that we got for this set, alongside the new Royal support, which we've already discussed on the channel, and the G-Golem archetype that is being released in the set as well. That was going to be covered today, but I'm going to be honest, I completely had forgotten to do this new support for dinosaurs, so that's why we're doing it today, and then expect to see the G-Golem archetype discussion tomorrow. So that's basically what is going to be for Animation Chronicles 2022 so far, and in this video we are going to be focusing on the Dino support. But without further ado, let's jump right into today's discussion. So as per usual with the card game videos, I go over the monsters first, then extra deck monsters, and typically end it off with spells and traps, though we don't have to worry about it for this video, as there's only 2 new cards for this support, 1 effect monster and 1 extra deck monster. And the first card that we're going to be going over is that effect monster, which is Dynabase, a level 4 earth machine effect monster with 0 attack and 2100 defense. Its effect is you can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If your life points are lower than your opponent's, you can special summon this card from your hand, and during your main phase you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, including this card on the field. So interesting card. So this card can easily get special summon out to your field. It's not really hard to get your life points lower than your opponent's. I mean, you don't even have to lose life points. You can make your opponent gain life points, like maybe using something like Upstart Goblin, give your opponent 1,000 life points. Not only do you get a +1 draw, but also since you'll be lowering the life points, you can special summon Dynabase. So very easy card to special summon, and then it allows you to go into fusion plays, which is really cool. But that's really it for this card. Not a terrible card. It just doesn't really do too much. I mean, yeah, you're able to go in the fusion plays, but let's be honest, in a fusion deck, although it's nice to be able to have another card that can go into your fusion plays, there's just a lot of better fusion cards out there that I feel like, although it's nice to get a 2100 defense point monster out into your field so you have some extra protection, but in terms of the fusion effect, if you're playing a fusion deck, more than likely you're playing a certain fusion card every single time. Like, maybe if you have the ability to go in the fusion monster, then I guess I can see you doing this, but besides that, this card doesn't really do too much. Not a terrible card, but I don't know, it's just a okay card to say the least. But that's going to be it for the effect monster, so let's go over the extra deck monster and the final card for this video, which is Dynatank, a level 7 Earth Machine Fusion effect monster with question mark attack and 2100 defense. And now that we're actually onto the final card, let me explain something real quick for anyone that was kind of confused throughout the video, because I've been calling this Dino support, even though this is actually machine type support. So for people that don't know why I'm calling this Dino support, and I've seen some other people considering this Dino support, it's because of the deck this is associated with. For people that don't know, these 2 cards were used in Hasselberry's deck from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, which was notorious for using a dinosaur type deck. So that's why, you know, people I have seen are considering this as Dino support, because of the fact that these cards were used in Hasselberry's deck. But if you want to be more technical with it, it is machine type support. But since it is a part of the dinosaur deck and it was known for being in that deck, that's why it's kind of honorary dinosaur support. So that's why I kind of say dinosaur support or dino support in quotation marks. So I wanted to kind of clear that up before we go into the effect, just so that way it can make a little bit more sense as why I'm referring to this as dinosaur support. And even with the requirement for this monster, which is a machine monster and a dinosaur monster, which I kind of see what you're trying to do there, you know, using Dynabase as a second effect to use this card and a dinosaur monster in your hand to go into this and make it a very easy fusion summon. See what you're trying to do there, but I wanted to kind of clear that up so that way it kind of makes sense why I'm considering this and why it's being called as dinosaur support. But with that little tidbit out of the way, let's actually go into this monster's effect, shall we? So you can only use the second and third effect of this card's name each once per turn. Gains attack equal to the original attack of the dinosaur monster used as fusion material for its summon, aka use a powerful dinosaur monster when summoning this monster, so that way it actually has a good attack stat line. When a card or effect is activated that targets this card and no other cards, quick effect, you can target one other card on the field that would be an appropriate target. That card effect now targets the new target. So, protection, nice. Is it crappy protection? Absolutely. Because if your opponent Raigekis you or lightning storms you, guess what? Dynatank still gets destroyed because you have to try to target another monster, but if every monster is getting targeted, guess what? This protection cannot work, so guess what? It still gets destroyed by those cards, and those are very prominent cards that you're going to be seeing throughout the game, so although it has protection, it's not really great protection. Even, like, an effect where, it can destroy a monster that has, like, maybe the highest defense on the field. If you don't have a monster that has higher than 2100 defense, guess what? Dynatank is still going to be destroyed because guess what? There's no appropriate target on the field, so Dynatank is still going to get destroyed no matter what. So I kind of wish it didn't have that effect because even if it didn't have that specific text to it, I still feel like you can still use it, but I don't know, because of the fact that they even specifically say that it has to be an appropriate target, I don't know, that just makes it not really that good of protection, but I guess some sort of protection is better than no protection, I guess, even though it kind of feels like this card has no protection. But its third effect is if this card is destroyed by your opponent, doesn't matter if it's by battle or card effect, it seems, you can special summon one dinosaur monster from your graveyard. So there is a payoff from this monster, which is nice, besides potentially maybe having a beefy monster on your field if you decide to use a more powerful dinosaur monster. But in return, when this card gets destroyed by your opponent, because more than likely it's going to have a good chance of doing that, guess what? You can bring back one of your dinosaur monsters from your graveyard. Maybe the powerful dinosaur monster that you sent to the graveyard, maybe something like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. I know that's a very popular card in dinosaur decks. Maybe you sent that to the graveyard to fusion summon this card, so when this card is destroyed, guess what? You can bring back that monster back from your graveyard. So, a nice payoff there, I guess you can say, but overall, honestly, I think this card is just okay. I feel like if you really want to use a card to bring back one of your monsters from the graveyard, just use something like Monster Reborn if you need to. Like, there are more than enough ways to be able to bring back monsters from the graveyard, and although it's pretty nice that this card can do it, and it can get you a pretty beefy monster onto your field, I guess you could say, I don't know, to kind of do all of this just to get a monster where all it really does is being able to bring back a monster from your graveyard when this card is destroyed. I don't know, I just don't really see it being worth that whole summoning in my opinion, but I guess in terms of the card itself, it's just an okay card in my opinion. But with that being said, that's going to be it for this new Dino Machine, Hassleberry, whatever the hell you want to call this support. General thoughts on it, pretty underwhelming in my opinion. I just feel like these cards don't really do enough to really consider adding these into a dinosaur deck. I mean, Dynabase, really all it does is help you go into Dynatank very easy, and all Dynatank does is that, when it gets destroyed by your opponent, which you have to rely on your opponent on doing it, it allows you to bring back a monster from your graveyard, but at that, or to be more specific, dinosaur monster, but at that point, guarantee it yourself by just using Monster Reborn or something like that. Like, think about it, you would have to consider putting this card into your 15 card extra deck, which is probably already cramped at this point, and unless it's really good, or just somewhat good, I feel like, there isn't really a reason to try to mess with that to put this card into it. It's cool for anyone that's a fan of dinosaur decks, really cool support for you guys, and I'm glad that you guys are getting some new support for your decks, but I'm going to be completely honest, you will not want to use these cards in your dinosaur decks. They're just not really worth it. They don't do enough that makes it worth it, and especially with Dynatank's crappy, protection, I don't know, I just don't really see these cards being worth it in a dinosaur deck, in my opinion. But I will always say this, when I diss on a card or something like that, I maybe for some reason am missing the value in these cards, and maybe some people think that they're actually really good cards for a dino deck. So if that's the case, I do apologize for being wrong in that, but I'm pretty confident where I stand. I don't think these cards are really that good in my opinion, and I do not see these cards being used in Dinosaur decks, especially since Dinosaurs are meta decks. They still have seen play in the meta game today. Like, they are not going to add these 2 cards and, you know, tamper with the deck that they already have just to fill in the slots for these cards. I'm pretty confident on that. But with that being said, that is going to be it for this OCG TCG video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Dinosaur support. Do you guys think this is good support? Do you think it's just okay support? Or do you think this is just terrible support? And let me know what new support that you guys want to see in Animation Chronicles 2022. We got the Royal support, we've gotten this Dinosaur support, and we know we're getting the G-Golem archetype introduced into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So what other decks do you want to see? What other support do you want to see in Animation Chronicles 2022? Would love to hear all your guys' thoughts on it down below. But with that being said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day. まるで蜃気楼手を伸ばした蜃気楼真っ白に染